So in 2021, mid-COVID, AOC undertook an evaluation and subsequent excavation at South Fort Street in Leith ahead of a future housing development on behalf of Barratt Homes. The works were due to the planning condition based upon the known location of the Georgian home of Hillhousefield House, as well as proximity to fortifications associated with the Siege of Leith. The site is located in the northwestern edge of Leith, and today I'm here to present some new archaeological evidence where we possibly have some of the fortification ditch associated with the siege and a brief overview of a Georgian house in Leith. Leith is first mentioned in the Charter in 1128 by David I, and throughout the medieval period functioned as a port and conduit to Edinburgh. Violent unrest besotted Leith during the later medieval period, resulting in several fortifications being erected. Tensions were perhaps at their greatest in 1560, with the Reformation having divided Scotland along religious lines, as well as the presence of some 3,000 troops, French troops, allied to the Catholic Mary of Guise, widow of James V. Leith was sieged, and in April 1560, Elizabeth I had sent a fleet and troops to aid the besiegers. This led to new fortifications being erected by the English around Leith, with Mount Pelham in the links, Mount Somerset in the southwest, Mount Falcon, and Mount Falcon was finally constructed to harass the shore in Leith Mills, and to make up for the ineffectiveness of Mount Pelham. By June of 1560, Mary of Guise was dead, leading to an eventual French surrender. Upon the swift French departure, it was left to the locals to level the ramparts and backfill all the ditches. A decade later, the defences were re-excavated by the Earl of Lennox to refortify the town against the supporters of Queen Mary. Then again in 1649, during the Wars of the Three Kingdoms. Leith's fortifications were re-established in anticipation of Oliver Cromwell's attack. Things eventually quietened down around Leith, though arguably not forever. And eventually the first depiction of Hillhousefield House occurs in 1804, showing an orchard and associated washing houses. Rapid expansion showing from 1817, with South Fort Street itself becoming formalised and tenements being built to the north. The house itself continues and is shown as a double pile, a small porch and a large sweeping drive. In 1895, the house is renamed Tay House and the Tay Works are established. By the 20th century, it's been completely redeveloped and removed by 1945, with the final iteration being a warehouse on the site from 1966 until the recent demolition. The excavation ran during February and March of 2021, concentrated around the foundations previously discovered during the evaluation phase. The deposits across the site consist of demolition materials overlying the natural substratum of orange-grey sand, and truncation was visible across the entire site of the 19th and 20th century developments. Due to ongoing demolition works at the time of the evaluation, I didn't even know the ditch was present until we started excavation, when eventually a large 2 to 3 metre wide ditch was uncovered, running for nearly 30 metres to the west of the excavation. I'm not going to play around with this. Stuck out as being other than the Georgian era remains, and presumably would have been shown on some of the detailed mapping at the time. Therefore, it was interpreted as likely being related to the siege works from 1560 or onwards. 4 slots were excavated to reveal steeply sloping profile onto an uneven flattish base, its nearly vertical side suggesting the possibility of defensive nature. The base indicates a slight rise and perhaps suggests the ditch was re-excavated at some point as well. It had a single fill containing charcoal, animal bone, oyster shell and cereal, all typical fare from the medieval period onwards. Slight striations in the fill suggested a quick backfilling event, and it also suggested it was done from the south and the east. Radiocarbon dates from the animal bone suggest that there was a broad range of dates from 1670 AD to the present day, while later than suggest 1560, it could speak to later recutting events and backfilling events. Ceramics were recovered. Oh, there's the ditch. Ceramics were recovered, ranging from Scottish red wares and likely residual Scottish white gritty ware, and were probably locally derived. Many suggested to be 15th century onwards and were consistent with commonly used materials of those stationed around the fortifications during this period. A small round lead ball was also recovered from the ditch fill. The ball bullet has been suggested having undergone a light impact with a solid surface. These kind of bullets were used in conjunction with muzzle-loading firearms from the second quarter of the 16th century until the 19th century. Smaller bore and weight of the one found here suggests it was likely from a pistol. And then perhaps one of the most interesting finds we had will have had absolutely nothing to do with the siege of Leith at all. An elongated lentoid-shaped copper alloy belt hook was recovered from retent sorting of the ditch fill. It had a slightly expanded waist and terminals bent around to form two arms, one forming a U-shaped hook. The closest parallels have been identified as broadly Roman Iron Age contexts in Scotland. There's examples from Carlisle and Trapain Law, as well as examples made from iron from sites like Kilduffel. No medieval or post-medieval examples could be found, and while the utility of the hook could have been adopted over a broad periods, it most likely seems to be Roman in origin. Whether it's a residual background noise in Leith or even an heirloom lost by those stationed there, it's unknown. Then the main reason we would have originally been there, the remains of the Georgian era house of Hillhousefield House, which is a mouthful every time you say it. The overall footprint was 22.5 by 30 metres and was of sandstone and brick construction with sand and lime mortar bonding. The exterior wall comprised of rubble boulder foundations and sandstone blocks built on top. The structure appeared to have basal foundations of the house, and it suggested there were shallow foundations. It was likely severely truncated by the level of subsequent levelling events in the subsequent warehouse. Ash deposits were encountered throughout the foundations, likely acting as damp proofing and thought to be locally derived from industries such as the Leith Glassworks. Due to the truncated nature of it, little can really be said about the individual rooms. We just didn't have enough evidence throughout. The demolition layers were literally right on top of it. Though we did record the porch entrance depicted in contemporary maps, along with ancillary infrastructure such as the stone cundy encircling the north site, as well as the sandstone built well to the west. Hillhousefield House was likely a fairly typical Georgian townhouse design. Scottish building tradition would mean that it likely was local stone, and with its facade designed to be symmetrical and possibly with stucco rendered, though unlikely. Basically, it's going to look like every other Georgian house that's around Leith at this point. Its lower floors would probably have been larger, with a main focus around a fireplace for family use, and it would have favoured sash windows as evidence again across all of Edinburgh and Leith and the UK. From mapping evidence, we know it was owned by a Mr. Robertson Esquire, then changing hands to Mr. William Boyd, and subsequently occupied by a Mr. McNabb, according to records from the time. Mr. Boyd also appeared to have owned several properties at the time, including the Leith Mills. The ditch I've suggested is active sometime during the 16th and 17th centuries, particularly through the ceramics. It's certainly shallower than expected for a defensive ditch. However, it's comparable to what was found at West Bowling Green Street just down the road. Its location on the crest of a hill might aid to why it's also been truncated through all the preceding years. With the discovery of the ditch, it has allowed us to re-examine other recent work by AOC in 2016, where colleague Kevin retranscribed a Harris transcription of the Petworth map, which is what I showed you at the start there. This was based on new evidence at the time, and recent ones such as the West Bowling Green Street. There's still limitations. We still don't have enough of corner points of the maps. Of the forts. We still need more to fully transcribe from a depiction of fortifications that were done long after the siege itself and at an oblique angle. However, the curve, as I've said, suggested to be part of the curve, though you'll need to forgive, this isn't quite the right pull down, but I believe it's more this bit. The fort can probably come down a wee bit further, but it also means completely retranscribing this bit. So this is just a quick one thrown together for now. Unfortunately, it also means a lot more has been removed due to all the rail works, etc., that's happened in the area. It can only be hoped that more excavations throughout Leith can help us narrow down exactly where the fort actually lies and give more evidence to the sieges at the time. So, thank you very much.